Come on in, folks. Come on in. Good morning, Mr. Nishant says Mr. Kumar. Sumant Kumar. Mr. Sumant Kumar, good morning. Can you hear me? Should we begin? I've been waiting here. It usually takes 4 minutes for people to join in from the time I start. Yes, perfect. So let's begin. Bum 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 bum. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Thinker's Frequency. We're having such a good time. This is the peak of human civilization. We're working so hard, doing such good work for ourselves, our parents, our kids, our siblings, our husbands, our wives, our friends, everybody. A lot of other people's husbands and wives, I hope. And just when we thought things couldn't get any better, like they couldn't possibly get any better, well, they just did. Call it divine intervention, folks, but things just got a whole lot better. Now we have Thinker's Frequency, our daily mental workout, our daily dose of insights and analysis, which don't lead to paralysis right before we punch in. So let's continue with our journey of reading between the lines, things that are especially interesting and important in the world of business and finance. Let's go. But before we go, gotta follow tradition, right? You know the tradition. You know the sweet and sacred tradition of the simultaneous sip. We'll all sip something together and bring us good luck, as it always does, without fail, every day. And all you need for the simultaneous sip is a cup or mug, a glass, a tank, a chalice, a stein, a canteen jug, a flask, or a vessel of any kind. Pour it with your favorite liquid. I like some hot water with black pepper in it. And here we go. My God, let's do it again. Beautiful. Healing. You know what the simultaneous sip says, right? You know what it says? It says that you are not alone. It says that we are in this together. That's such a beautiful thing to say. With that out of the way, let's begin. Mr. Kumar writes something. Mr. Sumant Kumar. Do you think some people want to skip this intro? Well, some people might want to skip this intro, Mr. Kumar, but I love it. I think it adds a lot of humanity to what we do. You know, the community effort. In fact, if you look at this cup, which was gifted to me by a viewer of Thinker's Frequency, a regular viewer, it says Thinker Frequency on one end, and it says you are not alone, we are in this together. So that's how much the person liked the phrase, right? You know what the simultaneous sip says? It says that you are not alone. It says that we are in this together. So I think it's beautiful, right? Instead of just starting business, there should be a fun human connection when it comes to the show. That's why I do this intro. It's funny. It always makes me laugh, the whole bum and then, you know, other people's husbands and wives, I hope. That thing, I do it. I've been saying it for 150 days, but it always makes me laugh, right? And then whole simultaneous sip. Do you sip? Do you have a beverage in your hand? Because I hope you do. That's the beauty of the simultaneous sip, right? It's just very nice. So we should all sip something together. It's actually just think about it. We are like 10, 15 people based out of different parts of the world, different parts of the country. And we all have a sip in our hand, a beverage in our hand, and we are taking it in. You know, it's just so beautiful, the concept. This was never possible in human civilization at once. So this is beautiful. Anyway, so let's begin. Did you read what the Morgan Stanley report came out? So Morgan Stanley report came out and they pegged gold at 8,000 in 2 years. So they say that gold will go. JP Morgan has come out with a result, new report stating gold price could exceed $8,000 per ounce by 2028. So within 2 years, within 2 or 3 years, they expect the gold prices to double. Well, what do you think about that? This would make gold a 60 trillion asset in 3 years. So this is basically investors hedging the equity risk, investors hedging the debt risk. At the same time, US debt, national debt, has crossed $38 trillion. $38 trillion. It's going to cross $40 trillion by the year end. Right now, the interest on US debt, they are greater than the US defense budget of $1 trillion. Just the interest, right? So US debt is kicking in, and US interests are greater than the defense budget, and gold is now projected to be at 8,000 dollars per ounce. So that is exactly, this is very much in line with what we've been talking about for a very long time. But as is my duty, or as is the smart thing to do, there should always be a counter view, for us to develop ourselves intellectually. And the counter view is that whatever happens to gold, gold is not supposed to be tulip. So gold is not supposed to be so uh, unstable when it comes to pricing, right? Also, gold is a hedge against the economy, against the fiat financial system. If the financial system does well, there is no reason for gold to climb like this. Only if the financial system is in great risk, or it is uh, almost at the cusp of a big fall, that's when this hedge becomes so important. And right now, the financial system, essentially the economy, they are getting a lot of good news. Not saying that they're stable, not saying that they're strong, but they're getting a lot of good news. And a lot of pivotal things are supposed to happen next year, which will decide where this AI and robotics boom takes us, right? If it succeeds, the formal financial fiat system might just survive, right? So, on one hand, you know that this system is extremely screwed, right? And it can fall anytime. And people have been talking about it. So, Ray Dalio, sir, all of these people, they are on, they're talking about the debt, they're talking the usual stuff. They've been talking about it for years. So, they say the system will crash, and when it crashes, gold will be de facto currency, right? Essentially. On the other hand, the people who are holding the system are trying to kick the can down the road, and they're all waiting for AI to do the trick when it comes to earnings. So this is what's happening. Where this particular thing goes at the moment, it's in the air. In the meanwhile, India is rising its gold purchases. Central bank, of course, they are not interested in dollar purchases, the treasuries, but gold is great. Japan holds about $1.1 trillion worth of gold. Then there are a lot of other countries, right? Sorry, Japan holds a lot of dollars, $1.1 trillion, and so on and so forth. So that's a lot of dollars that puts them in a risk. India has about some 200 plus billion dollars. So there is a lot of dollars that India also has as of now. However, India's central bank is, of course, firming up the gold supply. At the same time, Shanghai gold warrants, we've discussed it, viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember, they've stepped up yet again the gold purchases. So it seems like they are very clear on where they want to go and where they think the world is going. They believe that uh, the dollar's time is up, essentially. So if you look at the graph, it's a big fu to dollar, essentially, and it's a big hedge. So a lot of things are coming to play. A lot of things rest on very few companies. The fate of this financial system, it rests on very few companies. uh, the big tech, essentially the magnificent seven, they say, right? Nvidia is one, of course. Tesla is another. By the way, BYD has crossed Tesla. It's basically eclipsed Tesla in sales. At the same time, Tesla is at 1.7 trillion, and BYD is basically somewhere around 150 billion, 200 billion, somewhere there. So BYD has a lot of scope to grow valuation wise, and it's not like it cannot copy Tesla's tech whenever the robotaxi taxi or the humanoid robot come. So BYD has a lot of room to grow, extraordinary room to grow. It's like it could be a multi-bagger in times to come. And if there's something wrong with Tesla, if Tesla fails to deliver on the promise of robotaxi and the humanoid robots, then it's of course BYD all the way, right? So a lot of action happening in those areas. Speaking of action, related action in Tesla, there's a lot of boardroom showdown which is happening. Mr. Musk wants a $1 trillion payout, and the board has sort of, right, not so he's actually fighting the board representatives and the board controller, four controllers. So there's an elaborate showdown going on. The activist group which direct the board, which have no skin in the game, they are deciding the payout. So he's saying these people, they shouldn't be deciding whatever happens to the companies and their payouts of the executives, because it's just, it makes no sense. So there's a lot of showdown happening. Tesla stock, its earnings came up, not so good. Of course, whatever is happening in the European markets, Chinese markets, uh, American market is okay, but everything else is not so cool. Tesla is riding on the future of robo taxis and humanoid, the Optimus. So let's see what happens there. Tesla stock fell down, but rest of the Magnificent Seven, so to speak, have picked up, which is okay, right? uh, Even at Musk's scale and size, he has to fight for increment. So he says, Mr. Tiwari. Mr. Tiwari would be very amused to know that he actually fought for an increment and lost. So the Delaware judge, that was a Democrat judge, right? They refused his compensation package. So he actually had a very big fight with the Delaware. He said, "I'm gonna move my company from away from Delaware because they can decide what your CEOs get paid and so on and so forth." So he fought for his increment, and it didn't work out for him. So that's pretty pathetic. So that's what's going on with Tesla, with BYD, with gold. You see how when I drew the line, it was so connected, right? You begin with gold, you talk about American economy's debt, you talk about Chinese hedge, you talk about India's hedge, you talk about economies related to US a lot because they hold a lot of dollars. You talk about what the economy stands on, the promise of tomorrow, the future of AI, of robotics, and so on and so forth. You talk about the company responsible for it. We talk about how that company is sort of in a limbo right now, but its stock stands on the future promise. You talk about how its competitor is facing, and so on. So that's the arc. That's basically second order thinking percolating down, right? So it's very interesting whatever is happening in the world. At the same time, uh, the Russian-Ukraine war is not stopping. The Israel-Hamas conflict peace resolution has not worked out. Indian refiners are having to cut down on their buying of Russian oil because the tariffs will kick in on November 21, right? So the refiners, the banks, they don't want to be going out of the payment system. They don't want to be sanctioned individually as companies. So they go out of the window. So it's supposed to be very, very cataclysmic for Russian oil industry and Russian war effort. If India indirectly or directly stops buying Russian oil, or looks at, let's say, reducing its dependence on it, right? What does the war look like? How does Russia react? Does it nuke anybody? If it nukes anybody, where do we go? So it's a lot of, even if it doesn't nuke, even if the war keeps escalating, where do you go, right? So that's what's going on in the geopolitical front. US at the moment is also looking at reducing tariffs. So there are whispers and murmurs about the 50% tariffs to come down to 15 to 16%. If that happens, right, the textile industry, the auto industry, all of these people will be very happy yet again. The marine industry, and they're already looking happy, so their stocks are looking happy, right? This means that they anticipate a change in the environment, in the weather, right? It's very, very interesting whatever is happening in that area. So in the meanwhile, the Chinese in the economy is looking at a renewed sense of Atmanirbharta. They're talking about more and more education independence and science and technology independence. So if you look at the geopolitical fray, a lot of things are happening environmentally and in the trade aspect, in the war aspect, and so on and so forth, right? So it's and a lot of these signals, they are focusing, they are saying conflicting things. So at one end you say that the war will come down. If the war will come down, the finance system stays intact. At the other end you have the war, which has sort of gotten a peace resolution, but that's not working out. So conflicting resolutions, conflicting thoughts, conflicting signals coming on from all over. But the person who can predict the future with this level of uncertainty playing out, that's the person who benefits a lot. Benefits a lot. So there's a huge comment. Miss Deepshikha Chaliha says on LinkedIn, I have a small amount of gold that I got last year for long-term returns. Since last year, the exponential rise of gold by almost 85%. I have decided to sell it as it's unlikely to grow this fast in such a short term. What do you think? And thanks for this live chat on a pertinent topic I am contemplating right now, says Miss Deepshikha Chaliha. Oh, so this is a very good question. Miss Deepshikha, if you were watching Thinkers Frequency, the few episodes that we've done in the past, we've talked a lot about gold. So it'll be a little futile to explain the whole thought. But what we are saying is, the bottom line is, gold is a hedge. Okay? You don't buy gold to make money. You buy gold to not lose money. So I'll say it again. You buy gold to not make money, but you buy gold to not lose money. So what happens at an event of crash is that whenever an economy crashes, okay, everything starts falling. Your stocks, they'll be half, they'll be like 50-60% down. So let's say you have a portfolio of 1 CR in stocks, it'll be down to 40-50 lakhs, maybe even 30 lakhs, right? Because people are saying that this crash will be like the 1929 thing. It will be a Great Depression kind of a play. Your stocks go down, the currency goes down, right? Dollar starts getting devaluated. It's basically very weird situation happening. When everything starts going on, all the money starts accumulating in gold. Okay? That's when gold rises. So gold becomes your hedge when everything starts falling. If everything stays intact, you're right, the gold wouldn't really play out, right? But at an event of a major wrong, right, you will be very happy to have bought that gold. So think of gold as your leverage or your insurance against a crash, because that's the only right way to think about it, according to the first principles. And then, if you listen to people like Nassim Taleb sir, Ray Dalio sir, and so on and so forth, that basically it's the fundamental, right? So that's what I'll say about it. So we just talked about how Morgan Stanley says gold will double in 3 years, right? Gold will double in 3 years, and these people, JP Morgan, and all these people, they're going bullish on gold because they see a lot of cracks in the financial ecosystem. Now nobody knows whether those cracks will actually shape up, on when they will, but if they do, that's going to be the case. I've already talking about it. Speaking into the camera looks good, says Mr. Tiwari. So that's nice. I got this feedback, Mr. Tiwari, that speaking into the camera looks good. So there's a comment. India has forex reserves of approximately $680 billion, says Mr. Sumant Kumar. Yes, that's correct. So moving on, folks. Moving on. There's a lot of news about HUL. There's a lot of news about HUL on how India's FMCG play will be growing. So we talked about Nestle last morning. Nestle and Reckitt, Benckiser, and so on and so forth. The focus is now on HUL. HUL obviously had a leadership change, which was very interesting. Now, obviously, the economy has changed, fundamentally changed in 3 quarters, right? Just 3 quarters ago, when we talked about, if you remember, we talked like about 30th day of Thinkers Frequency. You remember what we were talking about, the biggest problems with the consumption play, and due to which all the FMCG stocks were in the toilet. They were not growing. It was just nothing, right? It was boring. But suddenly, the sentiment has changed, and how, and which is leading to companies like HUL warming up. So HUL bets on volume drivers to fuel robust growth in second half. Well, nobody should be surprised. Nobody should be surprised. So all of these things are long-standing predictions on Thinkers Frequency. We talked about the auto sector. We talked about the banking sector. We talked about FMCG. We talked about IT. We talked about so many things, and they're panning out like we said. The beauty is that if we can look into the future, that is the way to go, right? And that's what we try doing here, looking into the future. So with that out of the way, we'll not talk much about HUL because we've done that already. So let's move forward, folks. Starlink to line up 9 gateway Earth stations. Starlink is lining up gateway stations. Company has been permitted to import 100 terminals. So Starlink, of course, the geo satcom revolution is on and in full swing. You don't know how it'll shape up. All you know is that it's gonna go 10x. So it's, when I say you don't know how it's gonna shape up, it's gonna be so amazing that nobody can see what's happening, right? It's gonna change. So right now, everybody thinks that it's gonna be a niche operation, right? This whole Starlink Satcom play, because there is cost prohibitiveness and so on and so on and so forth. No, it's not going to be that. It's going to change everything. It's going to change how we interact with the internet. People are going to have terminals. So right now they've capped the number of terminals that can be sold, right? People are going to be using this in the business spaces. Office spaces are going to have their own place. So it's going to be amazing. And company has been permitted to import 100 terminals, gateway stations in Mumbai, Navi Mumbai, Hyderabad, Chennai, Chandigarh, Lucknow, Pune, and Kolkata. So, mini user terminals, gateway antenna, HP flat user terminal, Gen 3 router, and so on and so forth. So, this is pretty amazing. Whatever is happening in the fray, whatever's brewing has taken a very interesting shape. So, when Mr. Musk was a friend of Mr. Donald Trump, right? That's when this deal was signed. That's when Satcom Starlink was allowed, right? If Musk's relationship with Trump had gotten sour a little before the whole thing shaped up, Starlink wouldn't have been here in India. Can you imagine? So before all of this was shaping up, Bharti and telco guys, Bharti and Jio, they were radically opposed to Satcom taking so much of force in India, right? But then Donald Trump became a friend of Mr. Musk, and they both started pushing their services, right? Suddenly a deal was cut where Bharti and Jio both became distributors. Both became distributors of Starlink. And as they became distributors of Starlink, you saw what happened, right? You saw what happened. So Starlink essentially entered India. Bharti also has its OneWeb Utelstat. Jio has its own thing. Vodafone is trying to tie up with its own. So as I say, all business outcomes are a result of political will. That's what happened with Starlink. But now the revolution has begun, and it won't stop. Speaking of revolutions, TP-Link, by the way, TP-Link is another example of the businesses running on political will. It's a Shenzhen based company. It started in Shenzhen, China in 1996, right? But then it became huge. So TP-Link is that the router company, essentially telco equipments. So they are, they became huge, and then the whole Chinese and US play happened, and US started saying that this company has security clearance problems and so on and so forth. So TP-Link demerged. So the Chinese company of TP-Link only served China, while the US company and the other companies are basically serving the world. So TP-Link is dialing up in India for 100 crore factory. This is yet again a news in the what is it? It's private capex, right? Private capex is always a very good news for the country. So whatever we look at, whenever we look at a private capex announcement, we should be very happy, very happy. So TP-Link has been relying on contract makers in India so far. Now it's going to make its own factories. Currently, it has factories in Brazil and Vietnam. In the next 2 years, India business expects to almost equal that of US, which is country's largest market. TP-Link was founded. Mr. Sumant Kumar has a comment. Permitting Tesla to India also due to friendship with Trump. Any thoughts? Of course. Of course. So India was thoroughly against allowing Tesla to set up shop in India, in the country, without setting its own manufacturing operations. So no automotive company has been able to set up shop in India by and large without setting up their manufacturing in India, right? But Tesla got a free hand. Why? Because Tesla was a friend of, Mr. Musk was a friend of Trump at the time, and they went heavy in India, and India had to oblige, right? So that's why Tesla has just showrooms in India and no manufacturing because of that. So all business outcomes are result of political will, as we talk about it. Moving on, people are spending a lot on restaurants. Spending on eating out, dining in surges, restaurants pick up historic sales uptick in Q3 FY26. So UPI transactions up, estimated to be valued, food industry 5.7 lakh crores. 5.7 lakh crores of roughly $5 billion, roughly $4.5 billion, projected to grow to 8 lakh crores, 7.8 lakh crores by FY28, right? So some companies have done eating out spends grow 11 to 13% YOY in H1 FY26. 11 to 13%. That's awesome, right? Indians spending 1,000 crores daily on eating out. So some companies are very lucky when it comes to this, right? Wow Momos and stuff like that. But whoever is in the restaurant business knows how hard it is. Also how difficult it is to sustain an operation and grow it. Very few companies have been able to successfully do that at scale because it's an operational nightmare. It's just extraordinary. So Haldiram's is one, of course. Then there's Barbecue Nation. However, there's a lot of clouds hanging on the restaurant play because restaurant play has some power users, and those are the obese population of India. And GLP drugs are becoming very, very popular. If GLP drugs become popular, obviously they'll be targeting the obese users, the power customers of restaurant. So if obese users are get into GLP play, right now 10 lakh people, 1 lakh people take those medicines. In 1.5 2 years, 10 lakh people are going to take those medicines. If that happens, restaurants are going to lose out in a big way because there's something called Pareto principle, right? 20% of your customers make 80% of your revenues and shit like that. So if that happens, you might just be seeing a new problem coming into the restaurant industry. So that's a very interesting way of looking at things. Moving on, folks. I was thinking, Mr. Tiwari, speaking into the camera is, of course, one feedback that I got. And I'm trying to look into the camera. I'm very camera shy. So I feel awkward. But you know what I was thinking? We could have, a way to improve thinkers' frequency could be that we bring on guests like they have on TV, right? The panels. Let's say we want to do a deep dive on a company's financials. Now I can't do that, right? I'm not a trader. I'm not a full-time analyst. So I can't like start studying companies individually, each one of them, right? Or very important one of them, all of them, essentially. So what we can do is we can bring like viewers of Thinkers Frequency who've read this in depth, right? They've done a very big company study, just like I wrote something on Lenskart or Urban Company and OYO and stuff like that. So if they've have a very good thesis on a company, very well evolved, we could bring them on a panel, and it could be like a small segment where a guest is invited. He talks for 5-7 minutes about this company in depth, and he moves out. So it could be a very nice addition to Thinkers Frequency. What do you think? The only problem is that I'll need to have a paid subscription of something called StreamYard, all of these people, so that I can host all of YouTube and LinkedIn at the same time. So right now my YouTube goes through OBS, which is an open source tool, which cannot do this. So I can do this on LinkedIn, but I cannot do this on YouTube. So if I have to do it, I'll have to do both YouTube and LinkedIn through this StreamYard thing. and I don't use a paid service, so that's a play, and I don't want to pay. But anyway, this is a thought. Yeah, we could do this. This could be very, very interesting. Anyway, moving on, folks. This is lovely. The idea, somebody suggested it to me. I was like, yeah, man, this could be like a TV thing, and then the viewers could also participate, and they could come. Mr. Ashutosh Bhandekar says definitely yes, right? So if he comes with his own thesis on Gadchiroli, we could have a segment on Gadchiroli. Happy to pay for the subscription, says Mr. Sumant Kumar. So sweet, so sweet. Community effort. Anyway, moving on, folks. Let's. MOD has okayed 79,000 crore buys. Ministry of Defense, made in India warships, of course. So a lot of things are getting bought. Defense acquisition happening. So if you want to know, procurement manual, defense procurement manual has gotten something called LPDs, landing platform docks. Like landing platform docks essentially are very important because they help the Indian Navy to undertake amphibious operations. So this is one of the many things that the defense play is gonna do, right? The Navy has a lot of scope because as we talked about in a previous episode, how cool was it when Mr. Modi said that 60% of the world trade happens through Indian Ocean? That was a muscle flex, right? That was essentially saying that we don't want to spend the $70 billion on shipbuilding anymore. So, new revenue procurement manual streamlines private sector participation, penalties for delayed deliveries lowered. So, they are making it easier for companies to, you know, step in and serve. So, that's awesome. This is 79,000 crores. All we want to do is look at February, what happens in the budget. Do they raise the defense budget? Do they not? If they don't, it'll be very sad. But if they do, all the defense companies will be super cool, super green, right? Moving on, folks. A lot of political chit chat, which we best not discuss because it's dumb. So some numbers came out, right? Colgate India net falls Q2 on GST disruptions. Everybody knows, viewers of Thinkers Frequency know. This particular number, these numbers are not that green. You know the numbers that will be green? The January numbers. The numbers that come out soon. So those numbers are going to be very green for banking, for auto, for everybody, right? Speaking of what's not green, Diwali films, Bollywood is not green. Diwali films have not done well. It's not done well at all. So they had a few movies called Thamma and Ek Diwani Ki Diwane Ki Diwaniyat. And they have not done well in during Diwali. Ek Diwane Ki Diwaniyat has not done well, unfortunately. Thamma has not done well. So this should not be surprising to anybody, of course. There's a lot of lot rests on Bollywood. A lot rests on Bollywood. We need the film industry to survive. Film industry is very important. Not just as I'm not talking as a movie buff, but it's very important culturally. We need good cinema, right? We need some art, and cinema is de facto art. It should not be replaced by, let's say, reels and stuff like that, because that's instant entertainment. A film it takes 2 years to make, and 2 years is a lot of time. So a lot of people come together, invest their intelligence, invest their artistic abilities to sort of do this, right? So bad news for cinema is bad news for a lot of cultural intangibles. Also, it's bad news for the malls. So as we've talked about, I read the book, The Inheritors, the biography collection of a lot of stories. So Mr. Burman, the founder of Light Bite Foods, he's the Dabur Scion. What did he say? The food courts of malls depend on Bollywood, because the film is a very good excuse for people to go to the mall. So film draws people to the mall and then they spend, right? So it's a very good way to draw people into the market. And if that happens, it will be beautiful. So bad news for movies is bad news for all. And for me especially, because I'm a huge movie buff. So that's happening. There's some comments coming in. Feedback for better reach of thinkers frequency. Shorter intro. Hey man, why are people talking about the intro? I like, do you really think that the intro needs to be cut down? It's basically what, 2 minutes? How much of that is gonna solve? And we love the simultaneous sip intro, which is the Scott Adams Sir intro, right? Cup, a mug, a glass, a tank, a chalice, a stein. So why are people talking about the intro? And anyway, add topics you are going to talk about in the title and banner. Well, I can't do that shit. I can't spend more time on this. So you want to do that, you can do that as a community member, right? Whatever topics we've discussed, mark them out in comments. I can't spend any more second on it. I already like wake up at 5:30, read for 1.5 hours, and then deliver the session for an hour. I don't have any second, any more, just not even one more second to spend on Thinkers Frequency as a project. So that's that. Moving on, Cipla to sell Lilly's weight loss drug in India. Of course, Cipla is going to be the distributor. So Cipla is obviously going to be a generic maker of Novo Nordisk's drug. That's their strategy, and they're also going to be the distributor of Eli Lilly's tirzepatide. Is it right? What is the drug's name? Tirzepatide. Yeah. So Cipla in the play. Of course, the whole weight loss drug is a very scary thing. It's very bad for the body. So my heuristic is that you don't trust the pharma people. Come what may, you don't trust them. Wait and watch, and then think about whatever you can think about, and only then take the move. Don't trust these guys, because there's something called the good heuristic to work on is a very good one. It's called absence of evidence is not evidence of absence, right? So just because a thing seems safe right now doesn't mean it is safe. You understand? So I'll say it again. Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. So if somebody is actually looking at weight loss drugs and it says, hey, iska koi side effect nahi hai, right? And then the side effect turns up, what are you going to do? Because these people, they have a history. They have a history of screwing up a lot, right? Trans fats was an invention. What happened to trans fats? It gave people cancer, right? A lot of things that these people came out with as somewhat revolutionary products, they actually ended up hurting people more. And that's why the traditional medicine, or whatever, the traditional Ayurveda, that sort of has a much better track record, because there it's basically tested by thousands and thousands of years of consumption. So evolution, time is a very good what's the right way to put it? Time is a very good filtering mechanism. So time filters a lot of harm out of the way. So let's say if there's a herb which has been going on, right? Even if it doesn't have, so to speak, clinical trials, or it's not scientifically, reproducible studies are not existing for that particular herb, because it's been taken for thousands of years, right? If it is being taken, it won't harm you. And because it won't harm you, it's better than taking something that might harm you, because, there's just one body. So time is a very good way of keeping the system anti-fragile and keeping the system robust. So whatever has been tested by time is safe. Whatever is new and it comes out with good claims, it has to be taken with a pinch of salt, because a lot of people went blind because of these weight loss drugs, and they say it's not statistically significant. Now, who gives a shit about statistical significance? Do you give a shit about statistical significance? If you take a weight loss drug and you go blind, would you care about what the statistics told you about the drug, right? And half of all these clinical trials and half of all these research, these studies, they are basically non-reproducible, and half of them are also paid for. So non-reproducible and then paid for. So what are you talking about? So anyway, it's very, very weird, whatever is happening in that domain, but it's a very good opportunity for all of these people to make money. So moving on, a Chinese company is sourcing 7,000 crore worth solar modules from Inox Solar. The company is called Longi Green Energy, 7,000 crore project. for Inox Solar, which is great news. Critical minerals, of course, framework likely to address waste recycling. We talked about it yesterday. It's a developing story. How waste recycling is a very good source of critical minerals for the country. We have a lot of waste, and if we treat it well, we can get half the needs of the country of these, the whole rare earth thing, critical mineral thing, just by waste management. So that needs to be incentivized, and that particular framework is basically coming on. So that's what's going on. Feedstock availability for critical minerals recycling will be addressed through a formalization of collection under extended production producer responsibility framework (EPR). So that's what's going to happen. Moving on, a lot of data work, one nation workforce architecture. So what they're doing is that they're collating data from all sorts of places, putting it together, trying to map where the workforce is going, how the workforce is doing, and so on and so forth. This kind of data visualization actually helps in what? Can you guess why they're doing it? Because it helps in attracting investments. If the workforce data is very well visualized for the country, it becomes easier for a foreigner to essentially look at where he wants to invest, if he wants to invest, and how much can he invest. What would be a safe cushion. Moving on, CAs may get to advertise their firms. So CAs are going to be able to advertise their firm. We've talked about this. Why do you think the advertising norms of CAs? Right now, a 2006 ruling says that they can give write-ups, but they can have pictures. They can't have logos and stuff like that getting promoted directly. Why do you think they are allowing CAs to advertise themselves? We've talked about this, viewers. So think about it. Why do you think this change is coming for CAs to advertise themselves? I'll give you 5 seconds. Why do you think it's happening? We've talked about this, so it's nothing new. Big Four, says Mr. Sumant Kumar. That's 100% right. India wants a piece of the $240 billion auditing and consulting industry. Right now, India has no global company or big company to basically compete with the Big Four. So let's say if you look at Deloitte, KPMG, EY and PricewaterhouseCoopers, and then there's Grant Thornton, GT Bharat it is, but it's Grant Thornton, and then there's BDO. So there's nobody. Indian IT is a $280 billion play where we are great. But if we are a service powerhouse, why are we not great in this particular industry, right? It's government will, it's political will that is leading to a new revolution in this industry. So they're talking about merging law companies with CA companies, making consulting companies more robust, having joint offerings and so on and so forth, increasing the number of partners, making it easier, and now the advertising thing. So they want India's own answer to the Big Four, which is a worthy goal. Because $240 billion, let's say India can get even 10-20% of it, right? That's $20 billion in cash, man, which comes to the country, which is obviously awesome. So as IT struggles, this is going to happen. Moving on. Cybersecurity rules notified amid concerns. Mandatory only for telecom operators. So a lot of telco is over-regulated. We've been talking about it for 150 days now. So that's going on. Moving on. Realty. Record $2.9 billion raised from 42 deals in the realty segment. July-September real estate data. 5 IPOs alone contributed to $805 million. And then 4 QIPs, $344 million. And then 9 public market deals raised $1 billion. So $2.9 billion have been raised in the realty business. Of course, there's a lot of scope in the Indian realty play. And we've talked about it a lot, right? And what do we hope for when it comes to Indian realty? That it basically decongests and gets decluttered and tier 2, tier 3 cities get some action, because the more housing and the more concentration of these deals in the hubs, so to speak, the metropolitan hubs, the uh, bigger will be the problems for the people who live there. So that's what's happening. Sector recorded 42 transactions. GT Bharat data said that. So moving on, a lot of REIT action, of course. I'm just hoping I wasn't missing anything, and I wasn't. So moving on, government data came out. 112 drug samples failed quality tests in September. Right? Uh, Found spurious. Come on, man. India claims to be or wants to be the pharmacy of the world, right? And look at what happened. 112 drug samples. Central Drugs Laboratories have found 52 samples manufactured by various firms to have not of standard quality. Now, what were these people doing all this while? Mr. Suman Kumar says, got rid of the Malthusian trap. Yeah, that's correct. That was about the real estate play. What are we doing when it comes to these? And what is the punishment? Right? What is the punishment is the biggest question, because punishment sets the incentive and the deterrence. If there's no deterrence, this will continue. Moving on, we've discussed it a lot, so we won't go on, we won't talk a lot about it. Moving on, RBI seeking gold comfort. We've talked about that as well. So India's foreign exchange stockpile was $698 billion, and holding of US treasuries at about $219 billion. So out of the 689, 219 is the treasury, US treasury. Moving on, rupee rises. Of course, why do you think rupee rises? Because RBI has been selling dollars, buying rupee. RBI's buying rupee, by the way, has led to a crunch in liquidity in the banking system. So it's come down a little because so much of rupee has been sucked out of the system to make the rupee stand tall. Well, that's gonna be fixed. We've talked a lot about VRR and VRRs, right? So those auctions are precisely for this reason, so that the liquidity in the banking system stays intact, the currency doesn't fall, doesn't rise too much, and so on and so on. So that's what's happening when it comes to the banking play, right? Value of the rupee rising, but because of the liquidity sucked out, there's shorten of there's some fall of liquidity in the banking system. Elevated yields squeeze banks' treasury income in July, September. Elevated yields. Why elevated yields? Decreasing of bond prices. Why decreasing of bond prices? Because of decreasing of interest rates. We've talked about this. Viewers of Thinkers Frequency know a lot about this, so I won't repeat myself. But pressure likely to continue in the third quarter as well. Treasury gains, which we were at the forefront of banking profits, nearly halved sequentially in the 3 months due to hardening yields and the absence of central bank open market transactions that actually helped anchor a bond rally. So, no open market OMO transactions and so on and so forth. Bond rallies come down, bond prices go down, yields. So that's what's happening. We've talked a lot about it. HDFC Bank saw the steepest decline in treasury book, with gains shrinking 76%. ICICI decreased more than 67%, and so on. Very high yields in bonds this quarter. I do not see income from this segment in Q3 also. Intervention by RBI lead to liquidity deficit. We've talked about that. Let's move on. WazirX is resuming operations, and the founder of Binance has been given what is it called? Parole by Donald Trump, Mr. Trump, which is very, very weird, because the Binance scandal was huge. It was huge, and it caused a lot of losses to a lot of people, right? But he's been given, because Mr. Trump is like a friend of the Bitcoin play, it's a clear pardon. By the way, did I say parole? I meant pardon. So he's been given a pardon. By the way, do you know there is such an interesting facet? People say that Bitcoin is essentially a creation of US itself, right? The Satoshi Nakamoto thing. They say that it's CIA. CIA is uh, translation in Japanese. Satoshi Nakamoto means CIA. That's Tucker Carlson. Mr. Tucker Carlson said it's obviously CIA who's created Bitcoin, right? So, isn't this interesting that Bitcoin essentially, which is supposed to be a decentralized play, is rumored to be an asset of the CIA? Moving on, folks. Reliance Nayara earnings may take a hit on the US sanctions. We've talked a lot about this. We're not going to go repeat ourselves. Jio's broadband gain offset slower mobile user addition ahead of IPO. So Jio is obviously huge, and US new user additions have sort of started looking a little bleak, but broadband additions offset that, and user additions healthy but lag expectations. Tariff hikes likely closer to IPO. Obviously, there is going to be a tariff hike as far as the Indian play is considered. Why? Why is going to be a tariff hike? Can you guess why would Jio and Airtel all look at a tariff hike? Because India is essentially the cheapest tariff nation for data. We have very little data cost, about 20 cents, right? 8 cents. No, not 20 cents. 8 cents, while US is at $2.5 per GB. That's the rate, something of that sort. There's a lot of room to grow, and this is very necessary to save a lot of companies. And you know which company I'm talking about, right? The tariff rise is necessary to save who? Vodafone, right? So Vodafone. So that's what's going on. Very interesting. There's no saving Vodafone though. If that's not clear, I should say it again. Right? There's no saving Vodafone. Uh, Unifor is a Gen AI company, which is an Indian company, right? It has basically gotten $260 million. Sorry, it's not an Indian company, it's a US based company, but it's gotten $260 billion in a Series F round by Nvidia. So, Nvidia is yet again investing. So, the whole circular play where the company invests money in these companies so that they can buy GPUs from Nvidia. That's what's happening. Unifor is an enterprise AI play. So, it's basically an answer to a lot of IT, Indian IT outsourcing. So, if companies like Unifor pick up, so there were two schools of thought, right? What Mr. Masa said, Masa, the head of SoftBank, that he wants to buy an IT major, right? If he buys an IT major, he'll be able to merge the Gen AI thing, and that Gen AI adoption will skyrocket if Indian IT starts, it becomes a Gen AI company, and that can only happen by acquisition, not organically, because these people, you know, they are at core time and material guys, manpower guys. They won't be at their DNA, Gen AI guys. So uh, that is one way of looking at it. That you merge, you buy an IT company and make it Gen AI, right? Or you create these Gen AI companies and you fund them to an extent, and these are Gen AI companies at core, and they get investment from companies like Nvidia, and their job is to compete with enterprise IT solutions, right? So this is a very bad news for IT. So a lot of clouds remain on the IT's head. Speaking of clouds, Ola is yet again looking at a fundraiser set to review options like private placement, preferential issue, QIP, and others. Ola is of course falling off the cliff. We've talked about this. So we were very early when it came. I was the only person who on the internet, right, who essentially said that Uber and Ola's business model won't work in India. When all the VCs, all of these guys, they faked American accent saying, I don't own a car anymore. It's so great, I don't own a car. So when they were copying US accent, I very in a very detailed article I wrote that this is all BS, it's never gonna work out. So Ola's cab business is obviously in the toilet, and Ola Electric is also in the toilet because a lot of complaints, a lot of problems, a lot of, it was a PR machine, it was a fundraising machine. So it's obviously going down. So what we talked about when we talked about Aether was the whole valuation mismatch, right? So that has all played out exactly how we said it would. And now Ola is trying to raise money yet again. These people. The Bangalore-based company received board approval to raise 1700 crores. The question is, who is going to invest in Ola Electric? Whoever invests in Ola Electric deserves at least a hug, and then also a Pradhan Mantri Bahaduri Puraskar, because that company has a history, right? And then that leadership also has a history. So it's going to be very tricky for them to raise money, but I think they'll be able to raise money. Mr. Bhavish Agrawal is a fundraiser on steroids. I wish he could raise funds for me. How incredible it would be to have somebody like Bhavish, Mr. Bhavish Agrawal on your back, right? Behind you for helping you raise money. It's just amazing. But anyway, till that happens, Amazon India unit reins in cost to trim FY25 losses. Growth ticks up a little. So Amazon India is also trying to IPO. Every company in India is trying to IPO. And the reason is simple. Indian markets, while it might not look very pretty for secondary transactions when it comes to FPIs and so on and so forth, the primary market, the IPO market, is green. It's very green. So every company who can go public is wanting to go public, will go public. And when that happens, it's going to be, I guess, good. My only concern is, do Indian retail investors have this appetite? Is Indian retail market so deep to be able to absorb this level of depth, right? A lot of IPOs happening. So let's see what happens there. By the way, Delhi is looking at a cloud seeding play set for October 29. So they're going to have the first artificial rain project happening to cut Delhi's pollution troubles. Well, if that happens, that's going to be huge, right? That's going to be huge. If they clean Delhi's air, there's nothing more beautiful than Delhi's winters, right? So there's a romance about the city when it's cold, right? And it's beautiful. So let's hope what happens there. And with that, we come to the end of the 151st episode of Thinkers Frequency, folks. Most of investors who apply for IPOs want to make a quick buck, says Mr. Sumant Kumar. Of course. IPOs are a great way for providing exits. So Amazon has never made money in India, right? Amazon has invested a lot of money in India, but it has always lost about $1 billion a year, right? That at that scale, it's still losing money. So while they say losses have trimmed, losses have not really trimmed. I mean, they've trimmed, but that's just financial engineering dress up before the IPO, right? Company still makes a lot of losses. And the only way to make money for these companies is essentially to go IPO, and then you can have some cash on in the books back by selling your shares. So essentially, the product becomes your share, right? That becomes the core product. So if you look at Walmart, it has invested so much in Flipkart, it has invested so much in in PhonePe and everybody. Now those companies are not. They've never made money. They've never smelled money from a distance. Like Flipkart still loses $1 billion a year, right? But how does Walmart get its money back? It'll go IPO. It'll sell some stakes. It'll be great. The company will get valued at, let's say, 40 or whatever $billion. It bought it at $19-20 billion. It's going to be at $40-45 billion. I'm not sure. $38 billion. Some sales, some stocks sold, so that will be cash in the bank, and then the valuation of the company in the books will rise. So even if it doesn't make money, the financially the asset will be net positive, right? So IPOs are a great way. Mr. Ashutosh Bhandekar says, Nishant, blushing about romantic weather. The wedding market is gonna go up. Romantic weather, indeed. There's nothing more romantic about Delhi. But when I said romance, I meant it in the classical romance way. There's this love about the city. The city looks very pretty. That's what I meant. But you're right. It's also romantic in a personal way. Right? With that, we come to the end of the 151st episode of Thinkers Frequency, folks. Our daily mental workout. Our daily dose of insights and analysis, which don't lead to paralysis, right before we punch in. It's 9:11. It's 9:11. We're gonna punch in anytime soon. Let's wait for a minute, right? I wish you a beautiful day personally and professionally, and I'll see you tomorrow, same place, same time, hopefully. Please do whatever you can to grow the effort. Share it on your WhatsApp status. Bring more people live. It's gonna be amazing. Soon we are gonna have this TV thing, right, where we bring guests to talk about something in detail. 7 8 minute sessions, right? Good quick segments. So we need good audience for that, and who knows, we'll get very very popular people also, and the viewers, they'll become participants in the play. For that, it needs to grow, and for that to grow, please share it, and it'll be awesome. So I should thank Mr. Sumant Kumar for the beautiful gesture when you said you're happy to pay for the streaming thing. That's so nice. Mr. Tushar Tiwari, of course, Mr. Ashutosh Bhandekar, the class apart. I don't know your name, and Miss Deepshika Chaliha, and everybody else who joined. Right? It was fun. It's always fun. It was lovely. I had a lot of fun. I hope you had a lot of fun as well. I hope it added value to you. I'll see you tomorrow, same place, same time. Hopefully tomorrow. Bye bye.